Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to the Men Save Your Marriage show. My name is Terry. I'm your host. I did an autopsy on my failed marriage, and now I use the lessons that I learned to coach other men on how to save their marriage before it fails. I'm going to share with you the things I wish someone would have shared with me before my marriage failed. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome back. You just heard the bell. You heard the intro. You know what's going on. My name is Terry, and this is the Men Save Your Marriage podcast, and you just heard the bell. You know what that means, guys, right? That means that we are in the ring. We are in the ring to fight for your marriage. You and I, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, in the same corner, fighting for you to win your marriage. And we're back. This is episode number 60. It is also episode number 9 in the leadership series we've been going through. So this is the 9th episode about leadership, leading yourself, leading your family, leading your life. But this is also number 60 in the Men Save Your Marriage podcast or show, whatever you want to call it. But I'm excited today. We've got this one, and we've got one more episode before we wrap this leadership series. But today, I am really excited about this one because today we take this unique step as we step into this. We take this very unique step, and instead of thinking about where we've been or thinking about where we're at, which is what we spend a lot of time doing. Because, face it, if you're here, you're in a marriage that's struggling, you're listening to this because you're looking for answers, you're looking for solutions, right? So we're thinking about all the things that are going on. We're thinking about all the things that have happened, how we deal with them, how we work through them, how we adjust, all of the things, right? But this is an interesting episode because this is an episode where we stop looking at what is and we start looking at what could be, what should be, maybe I should say it that way, because this is an episode, and this is the episode's title is Lead the Way. Of course, that's the name of the series, but it's also called Build Beyond You, Legacy Leadership. And what we're going to do is stop looking at what is and stop looking at what has been, and I want to turn your head, so to speak, metaphorically, to look at what could be. Maybe look at what should be as we think about leaving a legacy. So that's where we're at today, and I want you to understand that legacy isn't sentimental. It is strategic. And I think that you will find the more you grow as a man, the more you grow as a husband, a father, and all the things that you are, what you will find is less and less and less of it becomes sentimental or emotional or mundane. All of it becomes more strategic. All of it is. And the older I get, the longer I live, the more strategic I realize that it is. So we're going to continue this series, and we're near, like I said, we're nearing the end of this journey. You know, we've got this one, and we've got one more. And today's episode may be the most forward-facing one yet. Again, we've looked at what is. We've examined it deeply, and we've looked at what has been. But this one starts to turn the page and look at what should be or what could be. And we're going to talk about your legacy. And that is damned exciting. So, not legacy as is usually portrayed with, tearful farewells and soft music, dramatic, monologues, none of that. We're talking about legacy in its truest form. Legacy as a strategy, legacy as a structure, legacy as a system that you live by now, not something people will scramble to honor after you're gone. And I want you to hear some things as we go. And here's the first kind of what we will call a hard truth. Most men don't think about legacy until it's too late, until their kids have stopped listening, until their marriage is just duty and silence. until their influence is eroded and they're left kind of sitting in a recliner wondering where the years went. No, but that's not you, is it? No, it's not. It's not me either, right? We're 60 episodes deep into this. I'm not just sitting in a recliner. I'm looking for change. I'm trying to create this on my own, right? So that's not us. You're here because you want to rebuild. You're here because you want to lead, because you're not interested in being remembered. You're committed to being replicated. Legacy isn't an idea. It's not a hope. It's a culture that you establish. It's a blueprint your family can live by. It's what your son imitates and your daughter relies on. It starts with how you live today. And let's talk about how to build beyond yourself, shall we? All right, as always, I'm going to come at you with 3 points. Point number 1, legacy isn't what you leave, it's what you live. Too many men think of legacy as a finish line, as something kind of written into a will or as something mentioned in a eulogy. But the legacy you leave starts with the life that you live. Every day you wake up and you're writing your family's future. Every word, every silence, every act of integrity or compromise, it all adds up. So let's stop thinking about legacy as what happens after death, and let's think of it as what happens every time you walk into the room. Oh, that's different, isn't it? That hits different. That's a whole different kind of legacy. Because it's not about what they're going to say about you when you're gone. It's about how they're going to feel when you step into the room. So ask yourself some questions. Does my presence calm the room or confuse it? Does my family know what I stand for? Would my children describe me as steady or sporadic? Here's one. Do I build or do I bulldoze? Ooh. That one hits kind of close to home because there's been seasons in my life where I built so very well. But then there's been other seasons where I'm kind of like a wrecking ball. Because here's the thing. Legacy isn't what people say when you're gone. It's how they feel when you show up. That's what legacy is. Again, it's not about how they feel once you're gone. It's how they feel when you step into the room and when you show up. See, character is the currency of legacy. Listen, you can have all the stuff, right? But money fades. Fame fades. But not character. Character multiplies. It kind of bleeds into generations. It echoes in marriages. It shapes how your children parent their own children, doesn't it? And if you think that they aren't watching, well, you're wrong. Okay? Because they are watching how you respond to stress, how you speak to their mother, how you handle defeat, how you apologize when you're wrong. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be present and patterned. Legacy isn't built by the loudest moment. It's built by the most predictable ones. Whew. Wow. Legacy isn't built by the loudest moments. It's built by the most predictable ones. So that's point 1. Now point 2, legacy comes from consistent, visible values. So now let's get practical for a minute. Let's really drill down here. Legacy isn't a mystical, it's mechanical. It's not about inspiration, is it? It's about iteration. You don't have to leave a legacy because you had good intentions. You leave a legacy because you had a daily system. Here's a framework. It's a simple 3-part framework on how to build visible generational values. Number 1, you model it. You just go do it, right? If you want to pass on courage, or if you want to pass on courage along to others, well, you have to show courage, don't you? If you want to pass faith on, You have to live by it, don't you? You can't just talk about it if you really want to pass it on to the next generation. You got to live it. And if you want your children to honor women, you got to start with how you treat your wife, don't you? See, they don't need lectures. They need living proof. They won't remember all of your lessons, but they'll never forget how you handled failure or how you treated them when they failed. That is so critical. Your children are not going to quote your speeches, but they will absolutely repeat your patterns. Did you hear what I said? Your children will not quote your speeches, but they will absolutely repeat your patterns. So the three-part framework is: one, you model it. Number two, you name it. You give your values a voice. You call it out. You say it out loud. You make it real, right? Create a family culture code. Keep it short and powerful. Here's some examples of not only things that I've incorporated, but things that men that I have worked with have incorporated. In this house, we do hard things. Done, right? Everybody can understand that one. That's a family culture that's being created. Here's another one. In this house, we finish what we start. Or in this house, men apologize first. Finally, in this house, we show up even when it's inconvenient. Each one of those statements creates a culture. Each one of those is starting to build out an ethos that will carry on for generations. So what do you do with it? You speak it at dinner. You shout it before a sports game. You whisper it during hard conversations. I'll never forget leaving my father's house when I was just a teenage boy, and he knew I was in that age. You know, I'm in that 16 to 18 year range where I can go out and get in trouble. I can go out and just have a good time with buddies. You know, the options are endless. And I'll never forget as I was leaving his house, and he would say to me things like, hey, remember, when you leave here, you remember the name that you bear and whose that you are. And he was just reminding me he was creating a culture, and he was helping me understand these codes that we lived by. So you've spoken at a dinner, you've shouted it before a sports game, you're whispering it during hard conversations, because language creates culture. And if you say something long enough and often enough, it becomes a part of who you are, and it becomes a part of who your children are. So, as we said, you're going to go through this process, this three-part framework. 1, you model it. 2, you name it. And 3, you repeat it until it becomes culture. You don't reinvent the wheel every week. You find 3 to 5 truths that matter most, and you build everything around those. You repeat those truths until your kids can mock you with them and still be shaped by them. You want to know what builds legacy? Here, let me help you. You want to build legacy? Legacy is built by what you celebrate. Legacy is built by what you tolerate. And legacy is built by what you repeat. I want you to celebrate effort, and maybe you need to write this down. Go get a notepad. Hit pause. Go get a notepad and write this down. You need to celebrate effort, not perfection. You need to tolerate emotion, not disrespect. And you need to repeat vision, not rules. You see, when a child can say, "My dad always said," you're starting to write legacy in permanent ink, because you're the dad that always said. Let me tell you a story. This is a story kind of from, how do I say this, from survival mode to legacy builder. I'm going to tell you about Greg. Greg was 44 when I met him, father of 3, honest, hardworking, but worn, just flat out, just exhausted. He wasn't a bad guy, but he was in default mode. It was every day was this kind of work, eat, zone, kind of zone out, sleep, and repeat. Work, eat, zone out, sleep, repeat. That's kind of it. That was Greg. Work, eat, zone out, sleep, repeat. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly who Greg was. His wife was distant. His kids were drifting, and he was kind of too tired to care. And I know I visit that spot regularly. I'll bet you do too. He was just too tired to care. Then one night, over microwave leftovers, his teenage son said, "Dad, I know you work hard, but I don't really know what you believe in." Now, when that happened, and he and I talked about this later, when that happened, Greg really didn't say much in the moment. But that night, later, something broke inside of him. He realized he had built a life of responsibility, but not a life of leadership. He had provided, but he hadn't prophesied over them. He had survived, but he hadn't built anything. So he made a change. He started a journal, called it, and what was it he called that? He called it, Letters to My Legacy. He would write one letter a month to each child. He scheduled a weekly breakfast with one kid at a time, just to check in and visit and talk. He created a mission statement, and here it was. This is it. Are you ready? In our family, we tell the truth, we keep our word, we go first. How simple is that? How perfect is that? In our family, we what? We tell the truth, we keep our word, and we go first. He's building out leadership. He's building out legacy. All of it is right there in what they say. And then he wrote a letter to his wife. And he said inside of it, I want to build a life with you that we'd both be proud to hand down. Now, when Greg did all this, when we worked through these changes and he started implementing all this, it didn't fix everything overnight. It didn't. But everything started changing overnight. A year later, his son gave him a card, and in that card, it said, quote, and I've read it, I feel like I finally know who we are. Who we are. In other words, what Greg did was really put meat on the bones of the legacy, describe it, help understand it, help build it out, and then his son, less than a year later, could say, oh no, I know who I am. I know who I come from. I get that. Now I understand. That's legacy. That's not perfection. That's not a big gesture, but it's daily patterned presence that builds legacy. All right, final point. Here we go. Number 3. Legacy leadership means building systems that last. Vision without structure is just, it's just vapor, right? If you don't systematize your leadership, it dies with your motivation. So here are 3 simple systems that can outlive you. Number 1, weekly rhythm. Build predictable patterns into your week. You've heard me talk about this before. I do a Sunday reset. Maybe you should consider a Sunday reset. Talk about the week ahead. Pray together. Clean something as a team, right? Let's just work as a team. Hey, dinner's over. Let's go in here and tackle the kitchen, right? You wash, you rinse, I'll dry. We'll put it away, and the dishes are done. That's something as simple as that, right? So with this weekly rhythm, you build in a Sunday reset or something along these lines. The other thing you should build in is actually moments to pursue your wife. Maybe it's a handwritten note. Maybe it's kind of a touch point. Maybe it's a quiet hour as you sit together to reconnect and reflect, right? Also, don't forget, not only reconnecting with your wife, but you need to connect with your children. So kids, one-on-one time, a 20-minute walk, get ice cream for fun, a late night talk, a late night run, whatever it is, whatever they're into and whatever you need to do to create that connection. See, these connections create security. They build identity and they multiply trust. So So the first step is you create this weekly rhythm. Number two is you have the annual kind of anchor moments, right? So create milestones that anchor your values. As an example, here's some examples. Birthday letters. Maybe you get in the habit of writing birthday letters, speaking life into the identity of your children every single year. Or back to school blessings. Where I live, we have one where certain time of year there's a kind of a local cross that sets up on a hill, and all the motorcycles get there, and they call it bless the bikes. And so you create some routines and some habits, and maybe you have a kind of a back to school blessing as the new school year is about to begin, and you send them out with mission, not just a backpack. Or maybe retreats, father-child retreats, right? Do you ever get away with the guys? Do you ever get away with the girls? It can be local, it can be cheap, it can be just as intentional as you want it to be. It can be a tent in the backyard. It doesn't matter, but you need to be intentional to connect with your children. And then finally, as another way for you to kind of anchor these moments on an annual basis, think about a marriage weekend or a couples retreat weekend. These are the kind of things that you can do where you reconnect and you rebuild and you remember why all of this started. I don't want you to wait for perfect conditions, because legacy is built with what you have now. So, as we work through this, these what leadership means in building systems that last. Number one, you find that weekly rhythm, right? Number two, you find some anchor moments, whether they're annually, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. You find some anchor moments, and then finally, long-term vision. If I ask you to sit down and write out your long-term vision for your family, what would it look like? Where would you write it? How would you store it? Does anybody else get to read it? And would you read it out loud? If I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write out a long-term vision document, I'm thinking about things like, well, what does my last name really mean? What has marriage taught me? What kind of people you hope your kids become? What mattered most to you when no one was watching? And the reason that I think about these things is because this is a long-term vision document. I'm thinking about, if I'm going to answer these questions, I want to answer them not for myself, maybe even not for my kids, but for my grandkids and my grandkids and my great-great-grandkids, people that may read this well after I'm gone. And that's the idea behind a long-term vision document. And it allows you, as the one that's writing the document, to kind of open the way that you see the world and also the way that you see time. Don't see this document as something that's created for next week or next month or next year or in the next 5 or 10 years. Think about this as something that's maybe created for your great-grandkids that you will never meet. Okay? Think about the long-term vision and how you would put words to it. That's what this is about. And don't just, if you were to go to this, to the extent and to the lengths to do this, which I have done, is I would challenge you, don't just store it for after you're gone. Let them know it exists while you're alive. Tell them. And let them hear it in your voice. Okay, so we've been through 3 points. We're going to go run through a drill, and then we're going to close this thing out. So this week, as you hear this, whenever that is, as you hear this, here's some ideas for some drills to help you build out your legacy this week. And I want you to make this real. And here's 3 drills for legacy leadership. 1, write your legacy vision letter. What I'm building for you, if you wanted to give it a title or something, right? And speak to your wife and kids, who you're becoming, what your name will stand for, and what kind of future you're building. Write this out and then put it in a drawer or read it aloud, but write it. Okay, and not only that, so write your legacy vision. That's the first option. The second option, create your family culture code. Pick 3 to 5, just short declarations. You're going to post them, you're going to say them, you're going to live them. These are things that your children will repeat. And here's some examples. Example number 1, we do hard things. Or we go first in forgiveness. Or maybe we clean up our messes. Or here's an interesting one. We honor the women in our house. And we're going to declare that is what this is saying as you create this family culture. So you're writing maybe a legacy vision letter, or you are creating a family culture code. And if none of those fit, maybe you just choose a weekly legacy habit. Commit to 30 days where you are doing a Sunday reset, or making time for a connection with your kids. Or maybe you haven't done this in a long time and you need to schedule time with your girl, just you and her, and you're going to make some touch points. These aren't dates, these aren't just go outs, these are touch points where you and I are connecting. Nothing wrong with some marriage touch points in our lives, right? Or maybe for you it's a family value talk, and all of this is going to change and flow and depend. If your kids are in their late teens, early 20s, that's going to be different if they were 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So that's why I'm encouraging different ideas for you to figure out, this is where I am. This would work better for us, right? So you got this Sunday reset. You got a connection with your kids, or you got this touch point in your marriage. Maybe you make it a point to once a week you sit down during dinner and you have a kind of a family value talk, or maybe you do a morning prayer. These are all options. And these are all things that can be repeated, and with repetition, you create identity. It's important to understand these are options out there, and you need to be involved. So, all right, gentlemen, as we wrap up, I am going to leave you with some final words. Before I do that, I want to encourage you today, if you get something significant from this podcast and the things that we're sharing and teaching, and if this really relates and resonates with you, I want you to go wherever you get your podcast from. I want you to give us a 5-star rating. I want you to give us a review, because all of those things feed into helping other men find our show. I thank you. And here, for my final words today, let me ask you a question. What does your name stand for? You see, you're not just a man. You are the founder of a family culture. You are the builder of a future others will inherit. So don't leave your family with memories but no mission. And I don't want you to grow old wondering what they really learned from you. Build a house of character. Raise a banner with your name all over it. And let your children rise up so that they can say things like, that's my dad, and that's what a man looks like. Or that's what a name means. Or that's who I am becoming. This, gentleman, what I've taught you here, the things you've just heard over these last 28 minutes, this is how you lead the way. So that's it, guys. That's the wrap up for this one. We've got one more episode in this series. And if this series has meant something to you, I want you to please go rate and review it. Give us 5 stars. Give us your thoughts and your feedback, and share this podcast and this information, because you will be the catalyst that is ultimately helping another man lead the way. I thank you, gentlemen. I do appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you back here again very soon. In the meantime, go out and make it a great day.